naked shamanism. Welcome to With Insights Radio. I'm your host, Iggy Garcia. I will take you on a journey across the universe through shamanism, metaphysical, and holistic. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show.
Here we go. Waving everybody coming in as my intro plays on the radio. Want to welcome everybody to my show, our time together here. So hopefully you get steak for a little bit. Excuse me. Gotta clear my throat a little bit. So hello everybody, welcome to Iggy Garcia Live. Darlene, how are you? Terry, how are you? Good to see you. Those of you who are popping in on the screen, I can see you. Hopefully you can hear me. Sometimes we have technical difficulties, but sounds like everybody's doing good. Beck, how are you? I hope everything's going well with you and your guitar playing. For those of you who don't know Beck, she's an awesome musician. She's an awesome songwriter, and she's played for us at our restaurant. And I just want to give a shout out to her. If you ever see her playing out in some restaurant, some bar, some lounge, some festival, it's a good time. Trust me on that one. If you haven't, check out my videos. But I want to welcome everybody to the show. Hopefully you're having a good day. Hopefully your Monday is off to a good start. Mine so far seems to be okay. But anyways, before we start every show, we always light a candle. We give thanks and remembrance to those people who have come before us, those who have transitioned just recently, those who are in our family, those who we care about, those we miss. And it's also just a remembering candle, a gratitude candle for the people who came before us, the people who, were able to do the things in order to lead to this moment in time, who have brought us to this incarnation, this existence of who we are and how we see ourselves. So it took a lot of people to get you here. So let's give thanks, give gratitude. Let's say, thank you and whatever you resonate with. And it took a lot of sex and a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about today. Is the reason you're here. I'm being funny and silly and laughing about it. So to our ancestors, we give tribute, we give thanks, and we give honor, and we remember. So we take a little moment, just pause and let that sit in for a minute. Okay, everybody, so how's everybody doing? Everybody doing good out there? I hope everybody's well. And so today I decided to just go a little bit different route than I usually do, but here we are on the Naked Shaman show. So the Naked Shaman kind of gets out there and talks about things that sometimes are uncomfortable and sometimes they are comfortable for some people. And so we're going to talk a little bit about sex, sexuality, and gender. And not any particular order, we're just going to talk about it, but let me share a little bit about my day today, kind of things that happen. I know this is a good time for us to be challenged. This is a good time for things to happen, a good time for things that just occur in our life. Today I got news that my truck that I dearly love and have taken care of for a long time is not well. And I'm not sure if I should invest more money into it. I want to thank the people at Midas for really digging into it. There were some friends of mine who work there, and they told me that, not a crankshaft sensor's out, but that doesn't mean it's going to fix my problem. And it also told me that the timing chains are probably going bad in my car. So they sold me a bill that was around, they didn't give me a bill, they just gave me an estimate. It was like $2,387, and I was like, I could put a good down payment on a really good used truck. I'm kind of a truck guy, so it's one of the things I like, and I'm not going to put money into it, and they recommend that I didn't. So I'm not going to be doing that. I'm just going to be able to move in the direction of purchasing a new vehicle. And it's time for a change. It's time for a reality check. But the reason I've hung on to that truck, a lot of you don't know this, but that truck is a very good omen for me. I always attribute to that truck saving my life, myself and my son's life. When we were coming back from a spring break in Florida, we actually were driving, and you know how you have that intuition moment, that moment where just something tells you to change lanes and just move over to the next lane. You don't know why, you just do it. You trust sometimes. And then all of a sudden, and it's pitch black, so it's dark on the freeway. You know, we're just outside of Atlanta. And this was several years ago. So this isn't anything recent. This is several years ago. And we're driving, and then all of a sudden, I had this urge to move to the next lane, and the car beside me is flying, like this little red Volkswagen or whatever. And then the next thing I know, I see this truck laying on the, had jackknifed. And the red car went through the compartment of the truck. And went right through it and came out the other end. So it wasn't like, I was like, what the heck is happening? And then the next thing you know, there's all this concrete debris. It had come across from the other side. It came across the median. The guy, I'm assuming, fell asleep. And then boom, you know. And next thing I know, this truck's laying on there. I didn't see the accident, but it was all there. And there's this huge piece of concrete on the road. And I'm trying, and I can't move to the right, and I can't move. Hey, Poppy, how you doing? I can't move to the right or left. And so what happens is, my truck goes airborne. I go up in the air. And my son's asleep this whole time when we're on our trip to Florida. And the truck goes airborne, and the next thing you know, and it lands, and the two left wheels blow out, you know. And I'm just outside of Atlanta at this time, and my son wakes up. He's like, "What's happened? What happened? What was that noise?" Typical teenager at that time. And I'm going, "I'll talk to you in a minute, JV. I have to get off this road like really quick because there's a lot of cars, and everybody was coming behind, hitting everything, and I'm just trying to get up out of the way so I don't get into this accident, so I don't get like rear-ended and whatever." Next thing you know, you hear like a whole bunch of things being pushed out. With this semi comes and just barrels right through all the concrete that's on the road and just moves it out of the way. And you know, it was just a crazy time, and this is why I've hung on to this truck for all these years, because it's got me out of some crazy situations, and I feel like I owed it, you know, to just take care of her for a long time, just get her to the point where she's able to function. But the news today was pretty much, you know, she's not well, and she's ready to either be taken by somebody who can invest the money into it, take care of it. I can't really be putting that kind of money into her, even though she's been really good to me. And I'm very grateful for her and for her commitment and service to me and my family. And you know, sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's hard to let go of things. I have a very close relationship with the things in my life, you know, with people, with items, automobiles, things that some people maybe don't think like. But that's because of my upbringing. That's because of my shamanic background, and how we're connected to things, and how we're, you know, intertwined with it, and how that story is. But it's not a sad story. I also know that I knew this day would come as well, that my truck would not be able to last forever, as we all do. We all have to ride that circus and that circuit, you know. Hey Brenda, how are you? Shelly, how are you? You know, we have to ride that, you know, that wave. So I've come to the point where I have to ride the wave of my truck. My truck is come to the point. So, but, you know, not to make this into a long story, but that's kind of why, if those of you who have seen me post things, it's important to, you know, give homage to my truck. That's a personal, so I light a candle for my truck too, because she's been a good part of my life. And she also came from the earth. She also came from all kinds of stuff, from metal, from plants. Because when you start to break down the fibers, and you start to break down every component of her, she's from Mother Earth, So, okay guys, today I want to talk about sex, sexuality, and gender. But before we start, I want to kind of bring something up to you, and I kind of want to see what your reaction is. I want to see where your mind is and how you think about this and how you believe this may be. This might challenge some of your belief systems. They may challenge some of the things that you're already incongruent with, and you're in some areas where you're just pretty solid. And this might challenge some of your belief systems. And I'm not here to dictate your belief system, okay? And you know what? I'm just here to present something. And the thing is, if I present it to you, it doesn't mean that it's the way it is. It's just an observation from my point of view, my particular reality, my particular belief system, my particular thing. So anytime that anybody talks to you, you kind of have to have that frame of mind. You have to have an openness of understanding that some people like to preach and tell you how it is. Other people like to suggest another way of looking at life and looking at things differently. That's kind of what I'm going to do today, is just try to give you a different perspective on things and a different look on things. Now, some of you will probably come in halfway through the show, and probably hear something, you're going to be kind of, wow, what's he talking about? But those of you who stick around understand that, it's another perception, it's another perspective on how maybe life could be, how things are. So yesterday I had my shaman class that I do. I do an introduction to shamanism. It's actually urban shamanism and Peruvian shamanism. It's a combination where I talk about a shamanic practitioner and I talk about shamanic traditions and how they're different. They're very different in the way they approach shamanism, but it's all shamanism. Shamanism is a word that we use, and we actually sometimes label people as shamans, just because, like, if we would say doctor, I know doctor doesn't go around calling himself a doctor unless they're really super arrogant and they just want to say, I'm a doctor. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, kind of stuff. I don't go, damn it, Jim, I'm a shaman. But I don't do that. That'd be fun to do, though, I think, to somebody. But anyhow, the point is, I lost my point. The point is, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about this topic that we're talking about. So yesterday, after I did my class, it's like a 3-hour process. When I left, it was time to go, and get back, and take a shower, and get ready to do whatever you were going to do. And I decided to go a different route that day. And I went home. I went a different direction. And then all of a sudden, before I drive out of the parking lot, I click on my phone and I see there's a sweat. Okay, and I didn't see any listing for it or anything. And I'm driving down this road that I'm going to go that way because that's where they're going to hold the sweat. And so I pop in. And I talked to my friend Nick, who, Sweat Lodge, Ohio, that they're right off there. Making you laugh? Well, Damn it, Beck, I'm a shaman. No, I'm just joking. Anyhow, so I'm driving, and I get there, all right? Oh, we got 20 people watching. Cool. Well, welcome, Peru. Bienvenidos, Perú. Habla Ignacio Garcia. Iggy Garcia. El hijo de Gino Garcia. Bienvenidos. All right, so I'm driving, and then next thing I know, I pull in, and I talk to my friend Nick, and he's like, hey, what's going on? We're having a sweat. So, yeah, I saw you're having a sweat. And, the reason I wanted to go to the sweat, I wasn't planning to go on the sweat, but I wanted to say hi, and there was a reason for that, and I'll get to that. And I talked to my friend Nick, and he had been on this journey of, self-discovery and meeting and traveling and meeting new people, learning new sweat ceremonies. So he's bringing them here to the United States to share, because that's kind of what we do. And so I go back home, and then I get dressed, and I come back, and the fire's going, and we're doing all the smudging, all the rituals that go along with that. And then we enter the lodge. And I tell you, I've been in many sweats, and it's kind of funny to actually sit there. And when you're the one who's usually doing the facilitation, it's a whole different... And I've been in sweat with Nick, so it's nothing new being in the sweat lodge with my friend Nick. But for some reason, I don't know if it's the dynamics of the people, the rocks, whatever. I mean, and the rocks were pretty hot. But the weird thing was, the first round is the cold door. It's the round. If those of you who know sweat lodge ceremony, it's usually the cold door. It's usually the door that's just chill. And then I'm in there, and it's pitch black because it's at night. And then all of a sudden, and this has never happened to me. This is like the first time I had this feeling of, I don't know what's going on. Like, well, what the heck's happening, you know? And here's a person who's facilitated sweats for almost 12 years plus. And I've done hundreds of them. But I'm on the other side. When you're on the other side, it's a little bit different. And so I'm in the sweat lodge, and, you know, and it's dark, and I'm having this, I don't want to call it panic attack, but I had this feeling of, I was unsure what was happening. And, you know, I'm going through a lot of things like everybody does. I'm not different than anybody else. I'm going through all this emotional stuff, and I'm feeling all this stuff happening to me, and I'm going, whoa, what is that? It wasn't a heaviness. It was almost like a fearfulness. I wasn't scared, but I was still fearful at the same time. And I really had to coach myself through it. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this. You know, I don't know if I can do these rounds. So we're processing, we're going, and he's playing his didgeridoo, and we're doing all kinds of cool ceremony in there where we're just releasing and sweating. It ends. And so I brought the first stones in, I brought the grandmothers in. And when it's finished, I step out and I told Nick, I said, Nick, I don't know if I can do this today. I don't know what's the matter. I don't know what's going on. He goes, are you okay? I said, I physically feel fine. I think it's just my emotional state. There's some things that I really have to move and process through. And I really thought I was going to leave. And then I got this little burst of energy. And then I was like, okay. And I came back around, second round came in. And he's like, oh, you're coming in? I said, yeah, I'm going to come in. I feel okay. I feel okay coming in. And then I went in, and, you know, things were good. I was fine, and things were in a good place. We got to play our drum. So one of my safe things is my drum. My drum medicine is part of what I do. And so I'm playing my drum, and I'm singing these sweat lodge songs that we have, you know, and one is about the medicine wheel, the Peruvian medicine wheel. The other one is the Lakota medicine wheel, and the Nemanha medicine wheel. And I'm singing these songs. And I feel a lot safer, and I feel a lot more cleansed and cleared. And then, you know, that ends, no problems. Then I come to the third round, the third door, and we're going around and talking and sharing, and I have a rattle, and I shake the rattle just to kind of distract my ego a little bit. And things are good, I'm not having any more problems, but I'm really tired. You know, I'm really tired, I'm kind of exhausted. But then Nick starts talking. Nick starts talking about his experience with what he saw in Estonia. He went to Estonia, and he was in Estonia, and Nick was traveling with a group of people, and he tells the story about how he runs over this cat. Well, he didn't run over it. Somebody ran over a cat. It's a black cat. Black cat crossed the path. And I'm thinking, what's this story about? So they take the cat, they put it on the side of the road, they do tobacco offering, they put it on the cat, and they pray, and they do ceremony, and they leave the cat there in case somebody wants to find their cat, in case they find it. So they drive to this little place where they meet their friends that they meet up with, and he starts to talk about these people he meets. This young girl and how her father bought, and then buy her, but he made her a house. She's like 17 years old, so he made her this house. And then he met the aunt and the mother, and then he said they just locked eyes, and he said it was the most beautiful experience meeting people who were just kind and loving. And he says the only thing he remembers is 2 days, 2 days passed, and they were only supposed to be there 6 hours. So him and his entourage of people who were with him just stayed there. And then the father came back, and, you know, he was like, you know, you're surrounded with these amazing, beautiful women in your life, and they really truly love you, and they care about you. They're telling the stories and blah 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 of how good you are and this and that. And he gives everybody a hug and getting by, and then of course he doesn't know the language and too well, and their English is a little broken, and he offers a hug to the dad. And the dad, you know, he didn't know if they was joking or not joking. He goes, well, I only hug women. And then Nick took a second. He went back. He just stepped back a little bit. And I'm listening to the story. He's telling the story. He goes, well, you know, my mom is woman and my dad is man. So there's a part of me. There's a part of women in me, and there's a part of man in me. I have both. My parents are in me, so I'm part man, part woman. And I sat there and I go, that's a really interesting thought, you know. And I'm thinking, I'm in the sweat lodge thinking this. I'm going, that's interesting. And I've thought that before. And this is what I'm talking about. Remember I told you to challenge your belief systems a little bit? Because I remember when we were putting the stones in, Nick was starting to say, and this is something I do, so it wasn't weird for me, but I could tell some people were like wondering what was going on. Well, when we brought the stones in, we always say, bienvenidos abuelitas, means, welcome grandmothers. But then Nick starts to talk about Sky Father and Sky Mother, and then he starts talking about Earth Mother, Earth Father, and I'm going, well, I've never used Earth Father before, and I used Earth Mother. I've used Sky Father and Sky Mother. I've done that because I have a belief that in order for things to have a big bang, there has to be two opposing objects. And generally, it's the duality. It's the female and male, and the masculine and feminine. Boom. Because that's kind of how our bodies work here. So if we're a representation or in the image of creation, then that's kind of how we are. It's not one singular in my belief system personally. So he started talking about that. I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was really powerful. And most of the night I'm driving and I'm going home and I'm thinking about that thought. And I'm thinking about how that can be. And so I thought it was really cool. Because now in today's world, if you start to look, spirit manifests through us in so many different ways, in so many different avenues, in so many different belief systems, and so many different ideologies and stuff. And right now we're going through this realignment and refinding of gender and redefining of gender, what gender really means. A lot of you, maybe some of you consider yourself heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, and then we have all these other fluid gender type, belief systems, and they're pangenders and all kinds of. I'm going to say crazy because you know what? You have to understand. I come from a time where things were pretty cut and dry. I mean, it was like you were heterosexual, gay, or bisexual, whatever. That was pretty much it. It was really not a whole lot. And I'm 51 years old, so I'm trying to adjust and learn these new things. And so Nick's talking about that. He's talking about, why we can't just be who we are versus trying to label ourselves to be all these different things. Because society, no one really answered, and I'm just listening. I'm going, and I'm thinking to myself, well, it's probably because the way society has labeled things and always will label things, and always when they can't understand something, they will put a spec, label on it in order to try to dictate it, create it, manifest it, try to, control it, whatever. But even when we put labels on ourselves and we say how we feel, that also puts us in a different category and different people. So when we start to put our belief systems and preferences and stuff in a certain place, then other people start to judge us by the way we're in these little capsules and these little creations that we make. Okay, so if you're heterosexual, then pretty much that means what? You're just man and woman. That's kind of how it is. And if you're gay, then you're just woman to woman, man to man, whatever. And then if you're bisexual, you like man, woman, woman. But the thing is, our sexuality and our sex preferences, they're something, and there's a lot of discussion about this. There's a lot of discussion about why it's so important to talk about our sexuality, why it's so important to label us as a sex. And, and truthfully, and this is just how I see it, I don't know how you see it, and please comment, because I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want anybody to take me wrong. I'm just trying to I'm trying to understand how the world sees other people. Because I think when we start to understand how other people are feeling and how other people are looking at life and how other people put themselves in categories so they can be understood, I think a lot of it is because we sometimes have a hard time identifying what we're feeling inside about us and how we feel. There are people who can love everything, and they can just be connected to everything and everyone. And there's a belief system that, monogamy is the only way to be in a relationship. Okay, monogamy is something that actually is fairly new to, when religious orders and stuff started coming, they started to put things into perspective where we had to stick with one partner. But man wasn't always that way. Man and women have not always not been that way. Man and women have actually traveled on this planet, moved through this planet, having multiple partners and being with multiple people. And we still do it. But see, what happens is, we put a taboo label on it because we've created, the label of marriage. And marriage is a beautiful thing if that's what you like. Now, marriage is also something that we write on paper, and somebody gives authority, to say that two people are unified. Two people could be unified even not being married. Unification of love does not need permission from anybody. Does not need permission from other than Source, probably. But Source already knows you're in love, so it doesn't need to give you permission. But it's another way to be taxed. And this is my belief now. So don't take me wrong. This is how I'm seeing the world. It's another way to tax people and to put them in a category, and then give them benefits and give them, if you're not married, you can't get benefits. The system is rigged. The system is rigged in the sense where they force you to do something that maybe, number one, you don't want to do, and maybe you want to be married. But I'm not here to tell you that marriage is good or bad. So that's for you to decide if it's good for you. I'm just saying love has no parameters. Love loves everything. Love is everything. Love has no color. Love has no distinction. Love does not discriminate. Okay, love is what you hold in your heart. Now, the act of sex is something that's very biologically what we do as human beings, what animals do, what insects do, is we are taught to procreate. We are taught in our genetic makeup, in our minds, to procreate. That's what we do, because that's how we keep the species going. That's how we keep ourselves to be remembered and not be forgotten. That's how we keep our lineage. That's how we keep ourselves going forward into time. Remember, because in every other show I've talked to you about, we're all memory sticks. We're very big memory sticks. So everything that came before us is programmed into our cells and our genes, but we also have the ability to reprogram them as well. Okay? Hey, what's up, little Sean? That's my nephew. But anyhow, what I'm talking about is, this is how I see, we're the act of having multiple partners for some people is a normal thing. And the act of just having one partner is a normal thing for somebody else. But genders right now is a big, huge topic in our society. Okay? Right now, genders are just, it's going to the point where I don't even understand what's happening. I'll be honest with you. I don't get it sometimes. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but I believe we have to really be careful how we cross into these categories, because sometimes I'm not sure if we're even know what we're talking about. I don't know if people are just making things up. I really don't know that. I've done some research on it, and I've looked it up, and I'm reading. Some of them sound the same, and there's just one little aspect that changes the whatever they are talking about. But I think when we start to label ourselves, we start to put ourselves in categories. But maybe the labels are important. Maybe they're important for us to have self-expression. Maybe they're there for us to identify with a certain group. Because race comes into this, and belief systems comes into this. So gender is one of those things that people are really having a struggle with. Because remember, I was telling you earlier that we are born, for those of you who do, science and biology and stuff, before we're born, we really don't have a true gender, until the mom's body starts producing more testosterone or estrogen and starts pushing and pumping, and then our fetuses start to change, and we don't have a sex yet. So I don't know how it all works out, but I find it really interesting that, we have these amazing things that happen to us inside conception. Conception is a whole world in itself. Conception is a place where all kinds of amazing things are happening there. That's a whole different existence. That's a whole different life. That's just a whole different, we're incubating and we're growing, but that's life. That's something that's happening. That's something that's occurring. That's something that is manifesting outwardly. So whatever it's kind of like in the real world, whatever we're fed, we program into our mind. So whatever mom feeds us, whatever father feeds us, if we have father, whatever we're fed, whatever energy, whatever is being put into that person who's our host, is affecting how we will come out of this body and how we program ourselves out. Am I a man? I look like a man. I feel like a man. I guess I'm a man. But there's moments where I feel like men can cry, women can cry, but sometimes I feel this feminine side of myself. Excuse me, there's this side of me that is just very nurturing and very understanding. I'm not saying men can't be nurturers, but I believe there's a feminine aspect to the male existence. The man has this capacity and also to feel. There's times where we can just switch, but our society has taught man that when I'm talking about men, that we have to be a certain way, that we have to be a certain ideology. We have to be like we have to be like this caveman, and I don't think that's right. I don't think that's correct. I don't think that we have to. You know, I think men cry, but men cry in private. And see, that's not all men. I'm making a blanket statement here, okay? And I don't mean to do it that way. All right, but you know, there are men that you probably know that would never cry in public, and then there's men who would. I remember when I was a kid, how if I wanted to cry, how I was ostracized and picked on because I was crying. Oh, men don't cry, boys don't cry. Well, you know, I'm here to tell you, men and boys do cry. We do cry. We are sad. We have emotions. We have feelings. In women as well. But I'm talking to you as a man seeing the world and how a man perceives it. You know, I want to debunk that you know, that men don't have to cry. Men, if you feel like crying, you feel like showing your emotions, and you feel like being upset with something, fuck, do it, you know? What are you going to wait for? Whose permission do you need? You know, we get sick because we hold so much crap inside of us. We hold in all this energy and all this frustration about who we are, okay? So cry. So if you're a man and you feel like you need to let go and you need to release, then release. Not because Iggy told you to, just do it because it's right. It feels good. And it feels like something, it's pure, it's purification, you know? It's therapeutic. It's very therapeutic when you can release your emotions. It's very therapeutic when you can cleanse and let go. If you don't let go, I guarantee you're going to be more frustrated. If you don't want to cry in public, then go in the closet or go in the bathroom or just do it in private. But men, don't be afraid to show your emotions. Because when you show your emotions, you also show another side of yourself, to who you are as a human being, that, you know what, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to express who you are. It's okay to let go. It's okay to say, hey, you know what, I don't got it all together. Then once you express it, you move on, you get up, and it's time to go. All right, so I think we got that out of the way. So the sex act of the biology, the physical act, you know, when we're trying to identify who we are and the characteristics, you know, the vagina, the beards, the breast, all the things, you know. So there's a part of us, yeah, that some of us feel like we're different, feel like that we are actually, some of us feel like we're probably more man. Some of us feel like we're probably more woman. I believe that's true. I believe that is something that happens. There's a lot of things that we can't, and in science, I don't care what science says, we just can't understand sometimes. Some things are not understood. You know, imagine all the people who really truly felt a different way, and they were a certain way, and they wanted to be completely different from who they are today, but yet they had to live this way. We live in a society now that we can actually change our physical appearance. We can change our, you know, our emotional state, who we are, how we feel about things, and how we want to look. You know, there are people who I know who were once women who are men, and you know, they're very happy now, and they move forward. And then there are other people who are going to always struggle because, you know what, it does cost money to change you are. Now, when we live in this society, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're talking about, we're labeled. And I talked about that earlier. Some of you consider yourselves heterosexual. You know, some of you consider, you know, that you're gay. Some of you consider you're lesbians. When does it matter? When doesn't it not matter? So ask me, and you know, I want to see your response because I'm really curious. I really want to know. I really want to see how you feel about this topic, about sex, genders, and sexuality. Because when we can talk about this, we can understand a little bit more about each other. I find that when we don't communicate, and I don't want it to be a taboo. I don't want it to be something where we all have to talk about it behind closed doors or have opinions that aren't congruent to our belief systems. Some of you aren't in alignment with anything I'm saying, which that's okay. And I'm not looking for your approval. You know, this is my show. You have the right to hang up anytime you want. But the point is, I'm here to challenge you to look at it, because sexuality is more complicated than just putting a label on ourselves. Okay, we have to really think, because we're getting into these rigid belief systems, and we're creating these factions amongst people. Yet we're all from the same source. We're all from source. We're all from God. If you believe in God, that's where we're from. If you don't believe in anything, then I don't know what to tell you, because I don't have that. I don't have that capacity to think that nothing was not created from nothing. I don't even know how that works. That's a whole nother show. We'll do another show on that. The life of an atheist or whatever. I don't know. But it's I find that, I think a lot of it's fear-based too. I also think a lot of it's fear-based for a lot of people who are heterosexual, especially men, when they encounter people who are of different orientation, different feelings of expression of love from somebody else. We use some really, really bad words to describe people sometimes. We live right now in a time where we're really being challenged. We're really challenging our belief systems. We're really challenging how we identify and what that means to identify. How do we identify without, number one, being hurt? How do we identify, number two, without hurting anybody? How do we identify in a world that we're all different in our beliefs? We're all different, and we're all different just to begin with. We're all so unique in our own right that there'll never be another you. It just never will be. They may look like you, may smell like you, but they will never be you. So you are very unique. You're a very unique snowflake. You're a very unique raindrop. Whatever analogy you want to use, okay? You're very unique and you're very special. So everybody has value, and I find it hard. Because I come from a different belief system. My parents raised me different, to encompass and embrace people and love people how they are. If they screw you, then you know what you do? Then you move on. You create healthy limits and boundaries, you move on. My dad's on this show, and he's listening to the show. Okay, he'll tell you, you honor people. You honor people. You respect people. Because when you respect people, you show respect for yourself. When you're acting like a jackass and putting down people because they're different, really you're putting down pieces and parts of yourself for being whatever you think you are above them. You're starting to place your, hierarchy into the equation. All right? Now, the thing is, when we start to really question things, because right now it's really big. It's really big in our society. We have so many labels. We have LGBTQI. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes I don't know what that means. I want to respect that means something to somebody. Okay, so I ask for forgiveness, because you know what, for myself and for the lack of my being, I don't want to feel like I'm insensitive, but it gets really confusing sometimes when I'm coming from a different vantage point. I'm coming from a different angle, and I want to share this because I think it's important to share, especially someone who does this work, who does this holistic and metaphysical work. Sometimes it's hard to grasp, what's happening, even though I'm trying to learn the processes of what's happening. So I think sometimes when we're not understood, and I could be misunderstood, and then it could come across really negative and come across very, very odd and very different, and I don't want to do that. But sometimes I don't understand all these. I know parts of all these little acronyms that they create, and then I get really lost in the translation. It gets lost for somebody who is of heterosexual origin. Okay, I get confused. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Is that an excuse? No, it's not an excuse. It shouldn't be an excuse. But I just want people to understand that that's sometimes people like myself who are considered, I consider myself loving and caring about people, but then I start to get confused with all the different gender roles and all the different gender discrepancies, and I know some people get frustrated with me because they think that I don't care. I do care, and I do try to understand. But I come from a whole different upbringing, a whole different belief system, you know. And I'm not using that as an excuse, but I also want to try to understand. And you know what? I may never understand. And I want to be truthfully honest with people who are in my life, you know, because it's better to be honest and truthful that you don't understand something than to say, hey, I get it, okay? But I know that for some people, gender doesn't matter. But for some people who live in these gender roles, it does matter to them. That's why I want to honor and respect that too, okay? For me, it doesn't matter. I don't care. But also, I have to care. I have to understand, you know, if some things are a certain way. And it's better for me, for you to know me as Ignacio Garcia, that sometimes I don't understand. I don't get it. It's not that I'm stupid, not that I'm dumb, not that I don't care. It's hard to relate, and it's hard to walk in another person's shoes when, you know, it's impossible. You can only have empathy for them and try to understand them from a vantage point that they've given you. Language is very, very powerful. What we speak is very powerful. And, you know, so I'm here to say, hey, you know what? Gender right now, gender specific stuff is a very big topic in our world right now. Okay, it's something that's very charged. We've come into a time where here in the United States that people who are gay and lesbian, they can get married, and that was a big accomplishment. That's something that, you know, the Supreme Court recognized, and that's important because all people should feel, you know, they should be able to feel safe, number one, in their own country, be able to feel that they can do what they do. And I also understand that there are religious aspects and there's different things that happen, but, you know, I can't judge you. I can't judge another human being and say, I don't like you because you like this way or you like this way or whatever. You know, who cares? You know, who the hell am I? Who the hell are you to judge anybody? You know, when you got your shit together, you know, hey, cool. Maybe you can judge. When you're God, you know, hey, let me know. Just because you're a speck of God doesn't mean that gives you the right to judge. Okay? Yeah, but, you know, it's just something that I wanted to bring up today because I know, you know, that's how it is. My son, you know, when he came out, it didn't bother me. It wasn't a big deal. It was like, that's cool. You know, I mean, and it didn't bother me. I mean, I grew up in a restaurant business, man. I grew up waiting on tables, and I served the gay bears and the gay coalitions and straight people. It didn't matter. You know, it only mattered, you know, they came to eat and support Garcia's restaurant. You know, that was all that mattered.